Hey everybody, it's Ellie from Own Your Books, and I'm jumping in today to do a quick video about how to integrate Gusto with QuickBooks Online. If you're watching this video, first of all, congratulations, because this means either you're a solopreneur or you're a small business owner who has decided to take the leap and jump into payroll, and that is a huge deal. So congrats. You should take a moment and celebrate. That's a big step in your business. All right, so if you have Gusto and you're trying to set up the integration, it can be a little bit overwhelming just because Gusto has so many options for the different payroll types and how to map them to QuickBooks. So I'm going to break it down for you in the simplest way possible. I'm just going to show you the fewest accounts you need to make in QuickBooks and then how to map them over, just so that you can have payroll pull over into QuickBooks and get put on your profit and loss and on your balance sheet where it's supposed to go. All right, if you're ready, let's get started. I'm in Gusto right now. For this example, I'm going to use my Own Your Books bookkeeping in QuickBooks, and I'll use like the actual data, and I'll go ahead and put stuff on my profit and loss. In Gusto, I'm using a client account because I don't use Gusto for my personal books. So there's going to be a slightly different wording between the accounts because I set up his account specifically for him. But this will it'll tie in. It'll show you how it works. So first and foremost, we need to go to the integration section and download QuickBooks Online integration. You do this by searching for QuickBooks Online, and it'll pop up, and it's very easy to download. You'll just click download, and then once it's downloaded, you'll be able to click manage. And here is the QuickBooks Online integration in Gusto that we are going to map. So don't be overwhelmed. It's a little bit overwhelming at first because there's just a huge list of different things to map, but a lot of these can be broken into chunks. So you'll notice there's some different ways to map it. There's a default mapping, there's a detailed mapping, and there's a consolidated mapping. In this video, I'm going to show you the detailed mapping. This just lets us choose which type of payroll is mapped to which place in QuickBooks. So I find it easier, and also just it's slightly more detailed, surprise, so that you can have a little more control over what goes where. All right, so we're gonna go make our chart of accounts in QuickBooks, and then we'll come back over here and map them. Here's what will simplify things for you. You'll notice there are a lot of different payroll categories. You may have even more depending on how you have Gusto set up. I'm going to break it down into 6 categories of payroll and then 1 bucket for contractor pay. And then we'll put a couple things on the balance sheet to finish everything off. So basically the way that I do it to keep things really easy and simple so that there's fewer things that can get messed up, I'll do a regular wages line in QuickBooks, and then I'll combine vacation pay, sick pay, and emergency leave pay. I'll combine all of those, and I call those paid time off. If you want to see these broken out, or if it's helpful for you to see the difference between what you're paying in vacation and sick, you can totally create separate accounts for these in QuickBooks. I'm just trying to give you the simplest, fastest way to get good data into QuickBooks. All right, then I combine bonus, commission, and additional earnings. And I also actually put paycheck tips in there as well. I just create 1 bucket called additional earnings. So I'll do regular wages, paid time off, overtime as a separate bucket, contractor as a separate bucket, bonus, commission, additional earnings all as 1 bucket. Then usually minimum wage adjustment, severance, catch-up payroll, break premium, these sort of things tend to be used more in larger companies or corporations. For a solopreneur or a small business, I don't see these being used a lot. So I'll usually map these to regular wages as well because they're not actually used. If they were to be used, they would dump into regular wages. You would know this when you go to reconcile at the end of the month. You'd say, hey, this is a higher number. That would tell you you actually do need to create an account for it. For the most part, I don't see this being used for small businesses. You should be fine just to map it to regular wages. Then we're going to create an employer tax account. In accounting courses, they go way in depth because you've got to record both the employer side of taxes and the employee side of taxes. Thankfully, thank goodness, Gusto, you're amazing. We only have to record the employer taxes side because Gusto is going to take out Social Security, Medicare, income tax, state income tax from the employee's pay for you and remit it. So you don't have to take care of recording that in QuickBooks or mapping it anywhere. We're just going to have 1 expense bucket of the additional taxes you have to pay when you pay your employee. Then we're going to have a reimbursements expense account. And finally, we're going to put a couple of accounts on the balance sheet just to track any tax adjustments. So let's get started. We're going to start on the profit and loss. I'm here in my books, so this is the accountant view. You will have this section though, and you'll have the transactions section on the side. Just go to transactions, chart of accounts. So like I said, we're going to do 6 accounts on the profit and loss plus the contractor account. And then we'll add a couple of accounts on the balance sheet just to track things. So first and foremost, we're going to get started on the profit and loss side and create our new accounts. To keep things gorgeous on your profit and loss and keep them really nice and lined up, I like to create a parent account called payroll expense. This just gives you an umbrella account to tuck everything else under so that if you want to, you could close that and just have the one number, or at least it kind of visually gives you like a block. Okay, this is the payroll section. So we're going to make the account type an expense and the detail type payroll expenses. And I like to give a little description just so I know what it is. All right, now that we've got that account, we're going to go create our other 6 accounts. I am OCD, so I like to go ahead and put payroll expense with a little dash just so that they all are formatted the same way. It makes them easier to look up if you go try to search for it in your chart of accounts, but you can do it however you want. All right, so we're going to do a regular wages category, which is going to be an expense type. It's going to be a payroll wage expense. I'm getting a little capitalization heavy there. And don't forget to make this a sub-account of payroll expense. All right, after that, we're going to do an overtime account. And it's also going to be an expense. I'll give you a hint. Everything for the profit and loss side is going to be an expense. And we'll come over here and do payroll wage expense. All right, now we're going to make the paid time off account. Again, if you would prefer to see vacation and sick time, jury duty, bereavement, whatever paid time off you offer, if you would prefer to see those separately, you totally can. I just do this for simplicity's sake because for a lot of small businesses, it's not super important to see that side because you tend to not have a lot of paid time off, especially when you're getting started. For your employees, you tend to have more hourly. Again, totally up to you. We're just going to put this as a payroll expense and make it a sub-account. And we'll go ahead and kind of list out what this would be. This would be vacation, sick time, bereavement, etc. You can see our payroll expenses lining up really well. I just noticed I didn't make overtime a sub-account though, so I got to fix that real quick. Come click edit, make this a sub-account of payroll expenses. All right, we're almost done. We need to create an account for additional earnings. And if you want to split this out into bonuses and commissions, you totally can. I like to keep it nice and simple because in my mind, that's kind of, it honestly depends on your industry because I have some clients who do need to see the difference between bonuses and commissions if they have like a sales heavy industry or part of their business. All right, we're going to make this a sub account, payroll expense. Additional earnings is going to be bonuses, commissions, paycheck tips, etc. All right, we're getting close to the end now. We need one account for reimbursements. This is going to be for anything that you pay your employees back for, or if this is just for you paying yourself payroll because you're going to file as an S Corp, then it'd be anything you're reimbursing yourself for. All right, payroll expenses, sub-account of payroll expense, reimbursements for business expenses paid personally. And finally, we need that employer tax account, employer tax expense. I like to put the word expense in there just so that you can differentiate it. It doesn't really matter since Gusto handles all the other payroll tax side, but in accounting courses and such, they'll differentiate between the employer tax expense and then the liability of what the employer's holding from the employee to give to the government. Gusto takes care of that. So it doesn't actually matter here. It's just me being OCD. All right, we're going to put the detail type as payroll tax expense. Make it a sub-account. Employer tax cost. All right, so we've got our 6 accounts now. We're gonna go ahead and make sure we have a contractor account created. And we do, we've got a contract labor account already. You probably will if you've already set up your chart of accounts. It's gonna just be an expense account, and usually people put it as a cost of labor detail type. So this is our profit and loss side. We've already set this up. Let's go take a look, and then I'll show you how to set up the balance sheet side. This is hopefully simple. I know it's a little tedious to watch because I'm creating the same account over and over basically, but I just want you to kind of see how we're setting this up. So I'm going to come and change the filter to show all accounts because some of these accounts I haven't put money in. And then here we are. I deleted this so that I could remake it for you, but here's contract labor and then payroll expenses. We've got regular, overtime, paid time off, additional, reimbursements, and employer tax. So these are what we'll need to map. This is just a nice simple way to break it up. Then we'll run back over to the chart of accounts and make 2 quick accounts for the balance sheet. What we're going to do is create one account for any amounts that were overpaid in taxes that Gusto owes you back. So we're going to call this Gusto Adjustments Taxes Receivable. And we'll make this a current asset account. And the detail type can just be other current assets. Amounts owed back from payroll taxes overpaid. Something like that. That's just to let you know kind of what this is. So we're going to create that, and then we'll do a Gusto Adjustments account. Taxes payable. This one is one that no business owner really wants to see, but unfortunately it is one that happens. So we're going to make the account type other current liabilities, and then we're going to make the detail type payroll tax payable. Payroll taxes owed. And just like that, we've got our balance sheet chart of accounts ready to go. Let's see if I actually clicked that or not. I don't think I did. Let's just take a little peek to make sure we did it right and they're in the right sections. Make sure it's showing all accounts. All right, so here in our current assets section, we've got Gusto Adjustments, Taxes Receivable. That's great, we want that money back. And then in our liabilities section, we've got Gusto Adjustments, Taxes Payable. Perfect. Now we're ready to hop back over to Gusto and we can actually map these. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is click Refresh Chart of Accounts. This is going to update the page so that all of those accounts you just made will actually pull through. Now let's get started. I'm going to close all these just to help my brain. First, you'll map your bank account. Hopefully you already have your bank account added in QuickBooks. If not, you're probably not tracking all of your money in QuickBooks, so that would be the first step, is make sure that you've actually added your bank account for your business and connected it as a bank feed in QuickBooks. Most business owners, if you've already been using QuickBooks to bookkeep, you've got that all set up. So just come here and under the drop-down, find the correct bank that you're going to be paying payroll taxes from. That way it automatically will map it. When you run payroll, Gusto will make a journal entry and it'll use that bank account. That'll help you match it once you're back in QuickBooks so that everything equals each other and there's no duplicates. Next, we're going to come to this section, wages and salaries. You'll just map regular wages to the regular wage category that we created on the profit and loss. I'm going to go back here just so you can look at it. I figured that'd be easier if you can have a visual. All right, so regular wages is going to be regular wages. Then vacation, sick, and emergency will make all paid time off, which is this one right here. Then overtime has its own category. Make sure that you map the contractor payment to that contractor category you created. It's not going to be under the payroll expense parent category because contract labor is just the amount paid. The employer's not paying any extra taxes on that. But it is important to track that because at the end of the year, you'll probably have some 1099s you'll have to file. All right, then bonus, commission, additional earnings, and paycheck tips, we can put all mapped as additional earnings. Minimum wage adjustment, severance, catch-up payroll, break premium, I usually just map to regular wages unless you actually use those. Employer taxes goes to employer tax expense. That's pretty self-explanatory. Same with reimbursements. Then for tax adjustments, just make sure that your taxes receivable is mapped to the Gusto Adjustments that you created on the asset section of your balance sheet, the other current assets, because that's money that you're getting back. So that's something that your business will have. And then the taxes payable can be mapped to that adjustments account that was taxes payable, which was in the liability section because it's something that your business is going to owe. All right, that was a lot of information. Once you have this mapped, the next time you run payroll, it's actually going to go ahead and pull it over as a journal entry into QuickBooks. And that journal entry will add the expenses to the categories you mapped, making it super simple at the end of each month to just go into Gusto and download a report and compare it to QuickBooks to make sure everything pulled through. I would recommend once you set this up, after the first payroll you run with it set up, just go ahead and kind of just do a quick eyeball check and make sure it pulled over everything. If you aren't seeing that journal entry in QuickBooks Online, just come back into Gusto, go back to your app directory, go back to QuickBooks Online and find that integration. And once you go there, you can actually just click resync the last journal entry. That will pull it in. All right, that was a ton of information. I know it was a little bit monotonous, but I wanted you to see it's not a difficult process. Gusto makes it super simple. The important thing is just making sure that you set up your chart of accounts right from the get-go. That makes it way easier on you later. All right, congrats again on setting up Gusto. Congrats on running payroll for your business. Now go kick butt.